Every day, aspiring musicians dream of getting out of their garages and taking their songs on the road for the world to hear. But not everyone's successful at making a living as a gigging musician. There's a right way and a wrong way to navigate the music business, and whether you're looking to book your first gig or plotting an extensive world tour, this show will help you demystify the live music industry by providing first-hand insights from artists and professionals who are doing it at the highest levels. Hey there, I'm Tony Neely, and this is the Book Your Band podcast. All right, welcome to the Book Your Band podcast. We're here today with my dear friend, I love him so much, Mr. Jonathan Roberts, who is the VP of Global Touring for Premier Productions. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, Tone. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, sir. It's been too long. So Jonathan and I first got to know each other when we were young pups. We've actually played in two bands together. We played with a guy, Josh Woodleaf, worship pastor, and then we were also in the backing band for Centricity recording artist Patrick Mayberry for a long time. So, which Pat's going to be on the show pretty soon as well. So,
oh my gosh. Well, if we end up talking about Pat for I honestly think a lot of my story will probably come back to Pat, whether he knows it or not. I think it probably will come back to him just because he's been the ultimate connector of like people that I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really good time.
We spent a lot of times at camps and retreats and stuff like that with Pat. So these people, I'm excited for all the success that he's had. So, so Jonathan, aside from being a phenomenal guitar player, ridiculously frustrating because you have perfect pitch, and just being a really, really cool guy, how did you get to be VP of Global Touring? What does your background look like in the live music industry?
Well, you're very kind. I've always been around music. I mean, because we've known each other for a long time. You know, I grew up in middle school and high school, playing music. I was going to shows, and I don't know. To me, being at shows was probably the most fun place that I could possibly be at, as somebody that was growing up. And I was also playing baseball for a lot of those years too. So I was passionate about playing baseball, and I was really passionate about going to shows or playing music. And ultimately, I actually didn't even really know that there was an opportunity to work professionally in music for a long time. I was still playing baseball my first year of college, and I got hurt. And so I knew that my sort of dream of being a college baseball player while I was going was kind of done. And I was like, well, I need to figure something else out. What do I love? I was like, well, I love music. I don't know if I can play music professionally, but maybe I could work in music. Maybe I could work for a record label, right? Like it was like, maybe I could go work for a record label. I don't know. And then what do you need to do that? Well, I knew that there were music business programs in Nashville at a few different colleges. And so I said, well, I'm hurt. I need to transfer from the school that I'm at. And I think I'm going to go to Trevecca Nazarene University and be a part of their music business program and just see what the opportunities are, that come from that. So I studied music business in school, and really even beyond that, while I was in school, I didn't know what anything was in the live music industry. I learned a lot about, publishing and copyright law and recording contracts and artist management. Like I knew about pretty much every other track that was out there. But I didn't know anything about, I didn't know what a booking agent was. I didn't know what a concert promoter was. I didn't know any of that. And when I graduated, my advisor at the time was a guy named Dean Deal. And Dean still is, he's on staff as a professor at Trevecca. He was a SVP of marketing at Provident Label Group, which is a big Christian label imprint of Sony for a long time. And he knew of a guy named Jeff Roberts. Jeff has a boutique sort of independent Christian music booking agency in the greater Nashville area. And he said, hey, Jeff's hiring an entry-level position. I don't know what your job situation looks like, but would you want me to put your name in to apply and to interview for the job? And I was like, well, I'm engaged. I just graduated school, and I probably shouldn't, be supporting a family on a part-time job at Best Buy. So Absolutely. Like put my name in. I ended up interviewing with Jeff, his son Matt, and a guy named Joe. We were all still at the agency, and I ended up making it to a second interview. And the job was essentially, they were calling it a junior agent, which was kind of a hybrid of a booking agent and an assistant for doing more administrative work for the agency. And I ended up getting the job, and they told me that they were going to offer me the job because they felt like my customer service skills that I had learned from Best Buy would be really well suited for the job that I was going to be stepping into. And I was like,
So
who would have thought?
there you go, kids. If you want a career in the music business, work at Best Buy for a while.
Start at Best Buy.
That's how you work your way up.
It's the
Go to
ladder.
college,
It's
part-time at Best Buy,
college,
VP of global touring.
That's right. And so that was my first job. I started out as a junior agent at JRA, and again, I didn't know what a booking agency was, but I went on their website and I was like, okay, I know who some of these bands are that they say that they work with. You know, they represent Skillet and Casting Crowns, and there's this new band called For King and Country. And I'm like, I know who they are, but the band that really caught my attention, and I still love them and I still have the opportunity of working with them, is Leland. I was like, oh, well, I love this band. I obviously, like most people who listen to Christian music, are like, heard Sound of Melodies, and it captured me, you know, and it had a hold on me. Like, I love that band. So if I can do anything when I'm at this company, I just want to work with that band. That's what I want to do. And so, and that started my journey. That was 2012. And I was there for 3.5 years, and, you know, learned a lot of, a lot of good, valuable, and hard lessons learned being, you know, a 22-year-old who knows nothing, you know, and is basically thrown to the wolves to try and represent artists, you know, interacting with artists and managers and industry people and promoters. And basically it was a swift kick in the groin to learn what to do and what not to do, you know, when being a professional. But over the course of being there, I met a guy named Shane Quick, and Shane is one of the partners of Premier Productions. Shane was launching in 2015 a brand new tour concept called the Outcry Tour. And essentially, you know, a lot of people are familiar with Winter Jam, which Winter Jam's a big traveling festival of multiple bands, you know, in arenas. Well, Outcry was designed as essentially being a similar model, several bands with abbreviated sets in one show with a legitimate ticket price. But at the time, I mean, it was for worship artists, it was a lot of the heavy hitters. It was Hillsong United was headlining, Jesus Culture, Bethel Music, Crowder, Carrie Job, Passion. I mean, it was like,
So like a who's who of the worship industry.
and it was the very first one. And I got to know him because the only unknown artist that he wanted to put on that tour, he wanted everybody else to be a who's who. And the one artist that he wanted to invest in was an artist that I was working at JRA with, named Lauren Daigle, and was like, I would like to put Lauren as the first artist on this tour with all these other people. I think it would be really incredible for her. Not necessarily, I mean, it's a great opportunity to get in front of people, but even more so than that, it's a great opportunity for her to meet all of these other artists and start developing relationships with them, because they're people that she should have in her corner as she starts to kind of progress and take steps. So I met Shane through the process of putting that tour together. And then I got a call a few months later from Shane, essentially saying, you know, Premier, for a long time, the owners of the company had been routing all of these tours and putting these tours together, but they're kind of at an inflection point where the owners of the company actually need to focus on running the business of the company, not doing the business of the company. And we need a couple of people that might be able to come in and help us kind of do the work that needs to be done, understand tour routing, understand negotiations, understand, being ambassadors of a company, not just people that are looking to get a foot in the door and start working. So that was in October of 2015. And then I started with Premiere on December the 21st of 2015. And I just tomorrow
Tomorrow. Yeah.
we'll celebrate 8 years with the company. So, and it's been a wild journey from then even to now, but that's kind of a very long-winded answer of saying that was it all started, it all goes back to I just really I love live concerts. And even now, like, I pray that I never get burned out of just going to shows and enjoying going to shows, even if I'm not working or working with the bands that are there. Like, I just love going to shows, and I will gladly pay money to go see my favorite bands or even bands that or artists that I'm just interested in. Like, I
Yeah.
will gladly go to shows because you just can't there's no way you can recreate that experience of what live music in a room with other people does to somebody. And it's just it's amazing. And I'm grateful, truly grateful every single day that I get to wake up and do this work that I get to do. It's a lot of fun. So anyways, that's kind of my journey from then to now and
From
where I am and what I'm doing now.
from Best Buy to VP. I love it. So like, it's a cool title, Vice President of Global Touring. What the crap does a VP of Global Touring do? Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
awesome. I,
Yeah.
it's a cool title, but like day in, day out, what does your job look like?
So it is a fancy title, but honestly, at the core of what I do, I am a concert promoter, and I am responsible for a book of business that I oversee within kind of the framework of like, I buy talent and I oversee our overall efforts, for the shows that I'm a part of. So there at Premiere, I know it works differently at a few different companies, but at Premiere, we kind of divide our work by essentially by roster, whether it's by a relationship that we have with an agent or a manager or longevity with an artist or however that looks. So I have a book of business, which is essentially these are the clients that I work with, and my job with them, if it's a tour that we handle exclusively, routing the tour. So identifying the venues that we want to play and the cities that we want to play, securing those venues and negotiating our agreement with them, essentially negotiating our agreement with the artist for the opportunity to promote their show in said venue, determining what the ticket prices are going to be and how many of each ticket price we're going to have in a venue, kind of figuring out what our average ticket price is going to look like, coordinating all of that information with the rest of our team, which is we have a ticketing team and their job is to manage the inventory, to basically set up the ticketing, you know, which seat is going to cost how much, and working with the local box office teams to be able to coordinate that, working with our marketing team to essentially say, this is our budget to spend money on advertising for this show. How are we going to spend it? How much are we going to spend on digital medium, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or Google search or whatever, versus how much money we're going to spend at radio, if any. Are we going to spend any money doing print advertising? Are we going to do any mailers? All that kind of gets coordinated with the marketing team. And then we have an event operations team, which they essentially, but my coworker Josh reminded me of this earlier because we had a new hire that started today, and he told her, he says, "Yeah, the shows that we do is basically a promoter makes a promise to somebody, and we have to figure out how to make good on that promise." Which is, if we tell somebody that we can have what amenities backstage or whatever it is, like we have to make good on that. Or, if we, some artists, if we want to do something special and make room for them to bring their family out on the road or something like that, like it might mean going out and finding an extra bus for a week of shows or something like that. Like our event operations team will help coordinate some of that kind of stuff. Or it's as simple as just making sure the caterer shows up, a runner shows up, the venue is prepared. We have enough security for the show, enough staff for the show. Like there's so many things that go into it, but their job is essentially, if I'm the very front end, the tip of the spear, like that starts this whole process, their job is to execute everything that has taken place so that whenever, you know, my neighbor walks into the door at the Ryman, they have an absolutely flawless, seamless experience, and they never know that anything crazy or hectic might be going on in the background, right? It's like there's always a curveball and maybe a little bit of chaos that we have to deal with on. Sorry about the thumbs up. I don't know what that is. There's always some chaos that we have to deal with on our side, but like our jobs and the event operations team's job is to make sure that a fan or a customer walking through the door of a venue never experiences or feels any of that chaos that's going on in the background. Um, and my job, you know, in title and role is to essentially oversee that entire process from very beginning to very end and make sure. And then we have to, beyond that, we have to settle the show. So making sure that all the money gets to where it's supposed to get to, whether we owe the venue money or the artist money or somebody owes us money, and making sure that it's all reconciled. If we have any invoices for caterer or, after show food, with Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever it is, like making sure all that stuff is paid and reconciled and accounted for. That's what we do. And that's kind of what my role
So it
looks
almost
like.
sounds like you're playing like a COO role, like a chief operating officer kind of role, that we have this goal that we're working towards as far as as flawless as can be
Mhm.
carrying out of whatever the event is. And you're there helping make sure all the moving pieces are getting where they need to be.
I would say that's fair in the sense of for the event itself,
Mhm.
yes. Like like as far as the event goes, yes. Like it's our job to make sure that, if a show is performing really well, how can we maximize that opportunity for not only for the artist, but for us as promoters, whether that's financially or getting more people in the room, because more people in the room gives an artist more of an opportunity to sell merch
Mm.
to a show, or if a show is kind of in the tank and losing, financially losing, our job is to minimize that loss as much as possible, figure out where can we cut some costs, how can we do any sort of ticket promotions that just captures some revenue to get people in the room, to help stop the bleeding
Mm.
a little bit, because ultimately our job is to make sure that people are in the room because we have committed to an artist that we believe in what they're doing or what they're about, and that they have an ability to do something that none of us can. And our job is to get fans in front of them so that they can continue that goal of, whether it's ministry, if they're a Christian artist, or they're just a country artist or a rock and roll artist, and they're trying to get fans. Like our job is to put people in the room so that they can do what they feel they are supposed to be doing, what they're called to do. Like that's our job. And as much as possible, be an artist first. Like whatever's in the best interest of the artist is what we're going to do, because without the artist, none of us have the ability to do this work that we get to do. And so our job is to super serve them as much as we possibly can.
So it sounds like you are working with artists who are living the dream, because I mean, our experiences and stuff as musicians was 15 passenger van and lugging, gear in and out and hoping that a sound guy shows up. And if you have merch, like trying to find your best friend to run the table or whatever.
Mm,
So obviously you're working with a higher draw artist. how do you decide who it is you want to work with? Do you have set metrics? Is it just agents come to you, or you actively have like an A&R division that's seeking out artists? How do you decide who you want to work with at Premiere?
Yeah, it's honestly, there's really not a rhyme or reason. I wish that there was. There's not a rhyme or reason. I will say Premiere over the last couple of years has undergone some change both in growth with kind of merging with a couple of other companies that do very similar work to what we have done historically. And that growth and really our good reputation that we've developed has allowed us in the door for some other opportunities. So, um, Premiere's history, you know, really when I arrived and long before I arrived, all of its history exclusively was in contemporary Christian music.
Mm.
And it very much, you know, our, I would say faith and Christianity is still very core to who I would say the overwhelming majority, if not all the people that work for Premiere, like are like it is in the DNA of the company to be a Christ-centered company and to our for our reputation to kind of be based on the fact that we love the Lord and our goal is to love people like Christ loved us. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that we're exclusively working on contemporary Christian music anymore, but I think it does sort of provide some guardrails
Mm.
for the type of shows that we take on. You know, I won't get into specifics, but it's like you can probably use your imagination to say there's probably a very popular artist out there who may sell out arenas all over the place, but even if we had an opportunity to work with that artist, like we probably can't because it doesn't fit
Mm.
the mix of where we have been and what we're about as a company today. But so I would say from a content sort of selection point of view, like that's one of the guardrails is sort of like, does this artist share enough of a commonality with us that they can be okay with us and we can feel confident promoting them, to the people that have trusted our brand and our company, to kind of be their content provider for years. So really the first sort of, I would say, step into working with somebody that's not exclusively a Christian artist or even something different altogether was when we started working with Dude Perfect, which is a YouTube channel. We started working with them in 2019, and that was the very first time that I can remember us working with somebody in the confines of Premiere that didn't necessarily identify as a contemporary Christian music artist.
Mm.
And through that allowed us, that opened doors for us to do some other kids shows. I know we were talking about this, I think off camera a little bit earlier, but like Blippi and Baby Shark and Bluey's Big Play is the show that's out right now. But Bluey is a show that I think we promoted 60 shows this year with Bluey. All of those opportunities for us we call it family entertainment, really came because of our work that we did with Dude Perfect. And I think realizing that our core lists and audience that we had been promoting to for so long as a contemporary Christian audience is very complementary to just families in general, right? The families are looking, whether it's a spiritual household or a not spiritual household, like families are always looking for stuff to get out and do together. And really that's no different than the way that we've kind of marketed our contemporary Christian shows for years. But at the same time, like I said earlier, it's like I'm a fan of music and there are a lot of bands that I love to listen to that aren't necessarily Christian music. They're not Christian artists. So we had an opportunity even this year. It's like, I feel like this year we started getting some opportunities in the contemporary space. And one of the highlights of my year this year was we got to promote a show with a guy named David Kushner, who's blowing up right now, had a top 40 single called Daylight, ended up, I don't know how many streams it has on Spotify now, but I know it's well over 500 million. It might even be over 600 million. And I won't forget the venue we had was a 1,300 capacity club in Orlando. and it sold out within 10 minutes of public on sale the day that it went on sale. And it's like that opportunity is allowing us to get in the room with other agents or, gatekeepers of other artists that
So speaking of
are
that,
cool.
that
Yeah.
makes me wonder. So I know that Premiere landed some opportunities to work with Oliver Anthony, viral sensation, but he's also, it's not so much that he's reclusive, but he's very, very selective in who he has chosen to welcome into his professional life. How did that
hmm
relationship come to be?
Yeah. I would say it's probably multi-pronged. So I'm sure for a lot of people, if they don't know, Oliver had this song, Richmond, North of Richmond, that it was probably the most viral song of the year. I
Mhm.
think that's a safe thing to say, just based on how quickly it went up and how many followers he amassed in that process. So at the time when the song was going crazy, every record label is trying to figure out how to work with him. Every agency is trying to figure out how to work with him and represent him. Every promoter is trying to figure out how can they just get something in front of him to consider, because you can't replicate what's happening right now. Um, well, our one of the things that we have the ability to do now with kind of being, I mentioned Premiere had grown. Part of that growth for us is being acquired by a larger parent company a couple of years ago
Mm.
that also has sister companies that do different things in different lanes that they specialize in. And one of those is a country music company where we have some festival properties that we promote. Um, and through that, we navigated a couple of things where basically we were able to get a couple of festival offers to the right people for Oliver to consider. One of those is a festival called Rock the South, which is in Coleman, Alabama, which we announced him on not too long ago. And through the early belief that we showed, when Oliver finally landed on the agents that he was going to work with, he decided to work with a guy named Kurt Motley and Jeffrey Hassan at UTA. Well, I've known Jeffrey for several years, even when he was at another agency called Wasserman. Jeffrey and I had the opportunity to work on a Tori Kelly tour together whenever Tori had released a gospel record. I want to say it was 2017, 2018,
Mm.
maybe somewhere in there. And so we had just gotten to know each other a little bit, and we had always kept in touch, even though we didn't necessarily, you know, have a lot of stuff that we could work on together at the time. It's somebody that you make a relationship and
Mm.
keep up with them and keep in touch and see what's going on. Well, Oliver decided to work with Kurt and Jeffrey. Shane, who I mentioned earlier, Shane had been really, an early believer in Oliver and submitted this festival offer on behalf of some of the country stuff that we're doing. And at the time, they're trying UTA, who's his agent, the agency where Jeffrey and Kurt work, they're trying to figure out how to put this tour together for Oliver because they know that there's a moment happening and they just need to figure out how to get something
Mm.
together.
Get your foot in the
And they're
door.
like, yeah, and they're like, guys, you showed an early level of belief, and we want you to be a part of this journey with us. So, and I won't forget it either. I was actually supposed to be going to Houston for the last show of Elevation Worship's tour that they were on, and I got a call from Shane the day before, and he said, "Hey, we've got this meeting with UTA in the morning, and I'd love for you to be there. I don't necessarily want you to do anything other than I need your brain. I need your brain on this because I need somebody that understands cities and venues and can, talk the talk with these guys that are
Mm.
trying to put something together." And I was like, "Well, I'm supposed to be on a plane." He goes, "Is there any way you could change your flight?" I'm like, I'll look into it. Let me see.
Mm.
I'll look into it." So I changed my flight and I went to the meeting, and I'm like, and as I'm sitting there in the meeting and we're navigating, we're talking, we're trying to figure out, all right, what are the opportunities where we could get involved? And I finally just realized it. I'm like, for years, I've wanted to work with Jeffrey. He's an agent that I respect a lot. I look up to a lot. He's had a lot of success in his time, and a lot, honestly, I'm a fan of a lot of the other bands that he works with, he represents. Young the Giant and Coin
Mm.
and Dayglow and like all these bands that I actually just listen to as a fan of music.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, if I have an opportunity to work with Jeffrey, like I'm gonna figure out how to work with Jeffrey. And so basically having that opportunity by being invited into the room and then having that sort of revelation and leaning into the moment is all of those things kind of coming together at the same time is what allowed us to get a handful of shows. And I think we ended up with 4 or 5 that they ended up confirming with us, and there's another that will probably be announced in a couple weeks or so, at the beginning of the year. But yeah, it was
Are those
really
all festival type settings, or are they any venue settings as
yeah.
well?
So 4 of them are headline shows with Oliver Anthony music. You know, it's his, I think, called the Out of the Woods tour
Mm.
or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but it's, yeah, 4 of those are true Oliver Anthony shows. 2 of them that are announced right now are festival appearances. One is a part of a brand called Bulls, Bands, and Barrels, which is kind of a festival style event, like a concert attached to a rodeo show,
Mhm.
essentially, that he's the headliner for in an arena. But the other 4 that we have are true. It's him and an opener, and this is the show in arenas, you know. And it's again, it's like not many artists just start their very first thing
Yeah.
in arenas, you know. And so and what's crazy, even crazier than just that whole sort of all those things sort of coming together is all of those shows that we have in arenas, every single one of them are going to sell out,
Mm.
which is mind-boggling to me. So, yeah, man, it was kind of a byproduct of, you know, being promoter. It's like you kind of have to. I joke, but it's also kind of serious. Like I'm kind of a professional gambler, right? Like
Mm.
it's like you're making bets on artists that you think are going to hit. You're either investing early, you know, at the club level where you think, you know what, I know there's not a lot, but I think that this artist has something special, and so we're not in it to make money. We're in it to invest in the opportunity to ride with this artist for as long as they're willing to go and as high as they're willing to fly. But then you have some artists where it's like, oh, this is a little risky, but
Mm.
I think it's worth rolling the dice on this scenario. And that was the case with Oliver. It's like
So those club
putting him in arenas from the jump. It's like, I don't know if we, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. You know, it's either going to be amazing or it'll be a total failure, but let's give it a go. Let's try. So, yeah.
So you mentioned, you have your arena level artists and then you have the club level artists that you're not looking to make a lot of money, but you are trying to help build them up, expand
Mhm.
their influence. If you don't have set metrics that you are using as an organization to decide who those artists are, how does an artist come in to have a relationship with you to even get their foot in the door to get at that level?
Yeah. It's honestly, it's a great question. I should go back and I'll revise my answer to say a lot of the artists that I'll say that we've been pursuing in the club space, are honestly, they have just been artists that I have been finding through my Spotify algorithm,
Hmm.
essentially, you know? It
Are these all scientists or are they indie artists?
No, it's a mix.
Okay.
It's a mixed bag. So, like, there's an artist who, you know, I've been friends with them for a long time, but we've never had an opportunity to work together. But I think we're gonna end up actually promoting a few of their shows next year. It's a band called Nightly, which they are signed to BMG.
Hmm.
They are represented by UTA. They're signed to major management, but they have been riding sort of that club level touring for a little bit, you know, growing their audience, like continuing to grow. But they probably will sell 800 tickets on average, you know,
Hmm.
across the board. And they're an artist. I'm like, this is an artist that is getting reps in real venues and real clubs, you know, probably I would imagine in Chattanooga, if they played Chattanooga, they probably played Signal, would be
Hmm.
my guess. And I'm like, it's a good opportunity to get some reps with an artist that I do believe in, but also I think is an artist that could open some doors, you know, to basically say, we promoted these shows with Nightly and they were successful. I think you should, excuse me, I think you should give us an opportunity to work with your band, if it's an agent, if they're signed to an agent. But on the flip side of that, there's a guy that I love his music, and it's a guy named Landon Conrath, who's based in Minneapolis. Landon has less than 10,000 Instagram followers and uh, nothing. He's completely independent, and I'm not working with him currently, but he's an artist that I listen to and I love his music. And he is just DIYing it right now. Like he's literally out booking his own tours in small clubs, just trying to get reps and people to believe in him. So for me, it's like, I'm trying to identify and find artists before I'm kind of my own A&R in a lot of ways. I'm trying to find artists before anybody else finds them. So I have the opportunity to work with them when they get to a place that it probably makes sense for both of us to work together. And I think part of the balance that we have to have at Premiere is, executing a show, regardless of the level of that show, it still requires a fair amount of bandwidth, So whether you're doing it in a club of 200 people or an arena of 12,000 people, you have to activate the whole team to execute every aspect of that show. And so you kind of have to select your spots on, all right, these are our opportunities to invest this year or right now, given whatever sort of our bandwidth looks like. Or if we're just slammed, it's like the timing's just not right in this moment. We need to focus on the content that we've committed to and really see it through, and we'll revisit. And to answer your question about like, what does an artist do? You haven't asked this question, but I know that it might come just based on some of the stuff that, we sort of reviewed ahead of time. But it's like, the thing that I'm looking for is your music just has to be better than everybody else's, right? Like you have to be great and have something unique that cuts through, because there has never been a time in either, like in our lifetime, where there has been more music uploaded to Spotify and, or used for TikTok or Sync or whatever. There's never been more uploaded at any point in time in history. There's never been more artists playing live shows in history. I mean, it is the busiest that it's ever been. So the only way to really cut through or break through is to be better than everybody else and like make sure that the art that you're creating is truly great, not just releasing art for the sake of getting content, and that's something that Matt talked about. Like, don't release content for content's sake, but like music's the same way. It's like, don't release music for music's sake. Like, you need to release stuff that you believe in and that you think actually has an opportunity to be amazing and that you believe in. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. And honestly, like if somebody reaches out to me, I can say this too. I listen to every single demo that gets sent to me, every single one. And it just needs to be great or have potential for me to want to latch onto it and keep the conversation going.
So the term better is obviously subjective to you. What makes one artist or one band's music better than someone else? Like, what is it that you're listening for as a fan and as a professional in the industry? What is it that's going to catch your ear and say, this is somebody I'm willing to work with and invest in?
Compelling melodies, like great melodies, great hooks. Like that's usually something for me. I usually default more to really great hooks and melodies and melodic composition more so than I do lyrics. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that I grew up and still probably prefer listening to really heavy music where the lyrics are kind of irrelevant, at the end of the day. But the melodic chops are so amazing and intricate that's what really grips me. But at the same time, I think lyrics and lyrically driven songs have never had more of a moment than they're having right now. And you think about artists like Zach Bryan and Noah Khan, or even David, with his song Daylight that he put out, like really well written songs that tell a story. Tyler Childers, another one. It's like these guys that are having and girls that are having really amazingly composed songs that grip you with the story that they're telling. Like that's another way that I'd say like it can be better. I realize that it's subjective, but like those are the things that like as somebody who's assessing or judging, for lack of a better way of saying it, like those are the things that I'm kind of like, I'm a sucker for a good hook. And if you've got a great hook, like I'm going to be in. Production value, take it or leave it. Like obviously you can, there's so much in pop music that is overproduced and they have cool tricks of the trade, with production, but if you dumb it down and strip all that away, it's a really crappy song. And so, tricks are great, but tricks should only be used to enhance the good that's already there,
With your thumb up coming.
with my thumb up. Yeah.
So you,
But I'll say one more thing on that. Like one of the great reminders to me of that was, I don't know if you've seen it, but T-Pain did the NPR Tiny Desk not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it. Everybody knows T-Pain for the auto tune and like the super produced song. And then they do this Tiny Desk and he's singing Buy You a Drink. And I'm like, he can friggin' sing.
Yeah.
Like he's really good. This is amazing. Like at the end of the day, it's still got to be really good underneath all that. Like you can't just put lipstick on a pig. It's another super cliche thing to say, but that's kind of it.
But speaking of lipstick on a pig, so you're working in the live music industry. So when you hear an artist and you're drawn to them, are you instantly going over to YouTube to look for live videos of them? Or are you just saying, hey, it's a great song, we'll work with, like, are you specifically
Yeah.
looking for what can they bring as a live performer?
Yeah. My approach is it's usually this. If I find something that is compelling to me, which again, I realize it's totally subjective, but if I find something that's compelling to me, my first thing that I'll do is I'll start poking around on the data sites that I have access to. I'm like, all right, is this artist, are they signed with a manager? Are they signed with an agent? Like, do they have any sort of team around them? And if they do I have a relationship with them or am I starting from scratch? And usually once I sort of answer some of those questions, sometimes I'll see that they have an agent and I happen to know the agent. And a great example of that, there's this artist, her name's Debbie Dawson, who she's only played a couple of shows, like period. She really hasn't done a ton of shows, but she had a song that, I think it's called Downer. And so the hook of the song, the melody is great, but her name's Debbie. And it's like, the lyric is, don't be such a downer, Debbie. Like Debbie Downer. I'm like, that's really clever, So I start poking around and I see that her agent is a girl named Lenore at Wasserman. I'm like, well, I worked, going back to that Tori Kelly tour that I mentioned earlier, I worked with Jeffrey and Lenore on that project. And I actually knew Lenore when she was a promoter. Before she became an agent, she used to be a promoter at AEG. And we would work together on some projects here and there. So I've known Lenore for a while, but I saw that she represented Debbie and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I reach out to Lenore and it's like, she's like, how in the world did you find Debbie? Like nobody knows who she is right now. Like we all believe in her, but nobody knows who she is right now. And I'm like, I was in a rabbit hole that I can't even explain in my Spotify search and the algorithm. And I stumbled on the song and I loved it. And I needed to find out who she was working with. So that's an example of finding the proper representation and, figuring out who the team is and going that route. But then I mentioned, I go back and I mentioned Landon, who's the independent artist in Minnesota. That's a guy who at the time I couldn't find any representation. I couldn't find anything, but he had an email address on his website or Facebook page. And it was like his personal email address. I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just email him and see what the story is. I'm like, hey man, I really enjoy your music. I really think that there's something here. Do you have a manager or an agent, or do you have any touring plans like in the future? Like, I'd love, if it makes sense in the future, I'd love the opportunity to work with you. And he emailed me back like the same day, which I thought was crazy because no offense to artists, but they're not necessarily that dumb again. There's no there's artists are not necessarily known for being prompt with response
Mm.
to outreach, but he responded same day, and I was like, man, all right, this is cool. So he put me in touch with his team and was like, hey, keep me posted. You know, if there are opportunities down the road, it's kind of who we are, what we're about, what we're doing, and would love the opportunity to work with you in the future. And I think my thing is too, it's like, I don't want to press for opportunities. Like, I want to hold every opportunity very loosely because I kind of, nothing is a given, nothing is guaranteed.
Mm.
But, like, I want to work with people that want to work with me. I don't want to just will something into existence because I think it's awesome. You know, there needs to be reciprocation, you know, as far as like desire of working together. So, you know, with Landon, it's like, hey, he's growing, he's building his audience, he's getting reps out on the road right now and really doing a lot of it himself. And that's probably the best thing that he can do is get live show reps.
What do you,
Same
by
thing.
reps, you mean like
Yeah.
experience or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like playing shows, like
Gotcha.
just playing shows in front of audiences, unique audiences. I mean, you've played a ton of shows, Tony. It's like, you know, one audience is never the exact same as another
Nope.
audience. There are different dynamics as far as, you know, crowd engagement, or does it sound good? Are you having technical problems that you got to work through? How can you riff with a crowd to kind of play off some of the tech challenges that you're dealing with and kind of still make the experience great for them? You know, so many things could go wrong in any given scenario. Or, you know, feeling the high of this show is sold out and I want to just soak in every moment of this and remember the best moments of this so that I can replicate them,
Mm.
at least from my position of being on this stage in the next show. Like those are all the things when I talk about reps, like those are reps. You get like, it's a rep of exercising, you know, you get reps and you get stronger and you get better. That's kind of what it is.
I like that. So I do appreciate that you said you listen to every demo you get. That also opens up another line of questioning. Are these demos being sent to you from managers? Are they cold drops? Like, what demos are you getting and where are they being sourced from?
All of the above. So some of them are coming from managers or agents. Most of the time it's from managers that we have relationships with. Sometimes it's people that, you know, they find my information on LinkedIn and they see that I work in live music and they're like, will you please listen to this? Is there an opportunity for us to get on a show, you know, that you're promoting or a part of or something like that? And unfortunately, in my position with a lot of the bands that I work with and a lot of the work that we're doing, it is so rare that I have the opportunity to influence support
Hmm.
for a show, for a headliner. Like, it is so rare that I can put somebody on a bill. 'Cause most of the time, it's a national tour, it's a nationally set thing, and there's just not really room for that.
Mhm.
There's probably more room for that at the club level, but even then, like, you know, mentioning these nightly shows and the tour, honestly, the tour that they just wrapped, they had national support on the entire run, 2 bands that were opening for them the entire tour. There was no room for local openers,
Yeah.
at least that I saw on that thing. But yeah, it comes from all over the place. You know, sometimes people find my email address somehow and they send it to my email address. Sometimes it comes from LinkedIn. I got one through Facebook. Somebody found me on Facebook and sent me something on Facebook. And it's just like, yeah, I will listen. And I do, as long as I know that it's a personal note. If it's a personal note that's specifically reached out to me, I will typically respond to it. Now, if it's just like a generic, formulaic, copy and paste email that this person is sending to 20 people, you know, I'm not going to respond to that. And after seeing enough of them, you know which ones are which. But yeah, and I think for me, I'm not great about this, but I remember when I was a young professional, and even now, it's like there were people and are people that I look up to, and I'll never forget like some of the people that would respond to me or give me the time of day that I didn't think really that I felt like a nobody. I'm like, why are you, I appreciate the fact that you're talking to me, but like, why are you taking interest in talking to me, you know? But I remember the impact that that had on me and continues to have on me. It's like, you have no business spending the time with me that you're spending with me. Like, why are you doing that? But it's just because they're kind people. And like, I want to have that same kind of impact. I know that I'm fortunate enough in the seat that I sit in, like I have the opportunity to have a similar impact on somebody else who I don't know. And I don't know what their story is or what they're going through. But even just getting a response and acknowledgement of their hard work and their efforts, you know, whether it's a young professional or an artist, like even if it's a no, like that goes a long way. I'm going to figure out how to disable these thumbs. I
Even if
really
it's
don't
a
know what's going
no.
on with it. Even if it's a no. So embarrassing. Anyways, yeah, that's they kind of come from all directions. And my goal is to listen to and respond, you know, as much as I can, you know, as much as makes sense.
So quick question. Don't necessarily need a long, lengthy response to this, but I am curious because like a lot of artists will come through Chattanooga and then suddenly they'll have local support that are opening for them. So I know
Hmm.
several artists that my band split shows with and stuff. They'll say, "Hey,
Hmm.
such and such artist coming through. I'm going to be opening for them at the Walker, at the Tivoli, or at Signal, or
Hmm.
whatever."
Hmm.
For those times, you said that it's very rare when they're able to occur. If somebody's wanting to shoot their proverbial shot, is it better for
Hmm.
them to reach out to that band's management or reach out to you as the promoters to find out if there's a possibility?
Yeah, usually, I mean, it's tricky. The right answer is probably management because ultimately, artist management. If it's a band that has management, that management is going to have the final say on if anybody else is going to share the stage with that artist. You know,
Mm,
I don't. I as a promoter of the show, I definitely don't have the final say. I'm not going to tell an artist that I'm going to put an artist, you know, who they don't know may or may not approve of, or
mm,
you know, for any number of reasons. Like I'm not gonna put them in that position where they may be frustrated at the end of the night, you know, because we force something on them.
yeah,
Artist management are the people that make that decision. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with going through both channels. Now, sometimes an artist manager, they may not respond.
mm.
You know, who knows? They may not respond. We may not be able to respond, or a promoter may not be able to respond. But ultimately, whether it comes from us to the manager or the band directly to the manager, it's going to get to the manager because they're the one that makes the decision at the end of the day.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's why I figured, but I didn't know. You know, as I'm going through this and learning more about the professional side, there you never know what channels, and it does sound like a lot of it from your own experience as well as social capital. It's who do you know, who do you have those relationships
Well,
with?
and I think one of the differences too, it's like you mentioned a venue like if you mentioned a venue
Mm,
like the Walker or the Tivoli or Soldiers and Sailors in Chattanooga. These are all, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know Chattanooga venues, those are all various theater
mm,
venues in Chattanooga of different sizes. Those are all managed and operated by AC Entertainment, which is an acquired company now owned by Live Nation, but AC Entertainment manages those venues and books those shows. They are they have a local presence in Chattanooga. They are regional in East Tennessee because their home base is in Knoxville, but they have a local presence because of those venues in Chattanooga. So a local promoter, where I'm probably more fall in the category of a national promoter that happens to work locally in a handful of cities. a local promoter like AC Entertainment that oversees those venues, they're going to have a way better finger on the pulse of this is a band that's got something kind of going on locally. They might even be worth some tickets locally, like that adds value to the show. They may make the case to the artist, if they're coming through, they're opening for an arena artist, but they have an off day and they'd rather not be off. They'd rather pick up a show day, where the arena artist isn't going to pick up a show. They don't want to take an off day. Well, maybe they say, hey, let's go do a show at the Tivoli, but we're on tour with somebody else. We don't have any openers that we're carrying. We're going to come do the show at the Tivoli, but we need the local promoter to kind of identify who are the local openers that could make sense. Because we're not going to just go on at the very start of the night. There needs to be an opening act for merch sales opportunity, for people to buy drinks, like whatever, there's a tour sponsor that needs to present. It could be any number of reasons. That may be an opportunity where a truly local promoter would say, all right, here are a few bands that I know about locally, or a few different artists I know about locally. And I think they'd be available. I think they'd be a good fit. Who do you want? Like, who do you want of this bunch? Who do you want? And they may say, I don't want any of them, or, oh, I actually want two of them. It could be one of those types of scenarios too. But that is the difference between sort of the work that I do on a national scale versus somebody that, even just a local club owner, that they know all the bands that are coming through there because they're there, every single night, could be bartending every single night, who knows? But
Yeah.
it's just a little bit different depending on whatever situation is going on.
Gotcha. Awesome. So just a couple quick questions to wrap up our conversation. You've been so kind and gracious with your time. Uh, I think my first question would be, you've worked as a talent buyer, you've been in your role that you're in now, working with global touring. If you're talking to a novice musician, whether it be somebody that has never been on stage or has limited experience, and they're wanting to start taking their life as professional musicians and live performing musicians to the next level, what would be some advice that you'd give them just from what you've experienced in throughout your career?
Yeah. Um, I think the best thing that a brand new artist can do who's just looking for experience is just find opportunities to play in front of people, period. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. And it definitely, the expectation early on as you're just starting cannot be for making money, right? Like, and I think so many, so many artists, I have seen it too many times. Like, so many artists say that I'm going to be a professional artist and that's going to be my job. But that expectation with it being a job is that they're going to make legitimate money. Which I love that you and Matt sort of talked about the difference between, like, just, you can be a professional musician or you can be like a rock star,
Yeah.
type of thing. And there's a stark difference between the two. But like, if you're just starting, you just need experience. That could be playing in the backyard with, 15 friends around a fire pit, and basically just saying, hey, I wrote this song. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. Or it could be seeing if a coffee shop, needs a musician to play a show at a night. Or, I know you mentioned open mic nights. Open mic nights are great opportunities. Or even just developing relationships and friendships with other artists that are getting opportunities, and finding ways to support each other. Like, but the biggest thing is just looking for opportunities to get in front of people. And that could look so many different ways, like so many different ways. Writers rounds, um, I mean, so many different ways. But that's probably, like, experience is key, and learning how to sing in front of people, not just how to sing in front of people, but like how to engage people that are listening to you and leaning into what you are trying to say as an artist. Like, that's where the magic happens, is understanding, the really great artists know what that feeling is when they know that they have an audience in the palm of their hand and they can do anything that they want to, and that audience is going to eat every little bit of it up.
Mm.
They all started somewhere and just start in arenas or theaters or stadiums, doing that. Like they probably did it in a room, with 5 people and just saying, "Hey, I wrote this song. What do you think about this?" Like that's where it starts. And
I saw a bumper sticker one time that said,
yeah,
every band was once a local band. And I love that mindset of
totally.
everybody, like you said, has to start somewhere.
Totally. Yeah, man. I think it's probably that's the best advice that I can give. But I also know every artist's journey is different, especially today when so many are, breaking online because they're writing songs in their bedroom and they just happen to have a hit that they may not have even intended to be a hit. And they've got to figure out, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to do a show now because all of a sudden I've got millions of people that are hearing my music and I got to figure out how to perform it in front of them. It's like there's no perfect system, but you gotta get the reps, you gotta figure it out.
Nice. So, 2 last questions, we'll wrap up. You go to a lot of shows. I go to a lot of shows. Back in the day, we've gone to shows together and definitely played shows together. What is the most significant live music experience that you've ever personally had? Like, best show, best band, and how has it influenced you in what you do and throughout your career?
I knew this question was coming too, and I was like, I don't even know how to answer that because honestly, I have kind of different buckets
Mm.
that I put different things into. So I will say the most pivotal concert that I ever went to was actually with who we mentioned at the top of the podcast, Patrick Mayberry. Patrick and Jenny, his wife, had just moved to Nashville, and our good friend Daniel Wainwright was in town. And Daniel said, "Hey, there's this band, there's this worship band playing at Belmont called Hillsong United, and I think you might really like them. Like, I think you would really like them, and I think we should go to the show with my friends, Daniel, with my friends Patrick and Jenny." And I was like, "Okay, sure, let's go." I honestly did not know much about Hillsong United at the time. Like I knew maybe we had played a couple of their songs, in camps or at church or whatever it was. But we went, it was actually the first or second time that I had met Patrick. It was very, very early on in knowing Patrick. And we went to the show. It was at the Belmont Curb Event Center,
Mm.
which is like 4,000, 5,000 seats, somewhere in that range. And it was completely sold out. GA floor, like almost like a big rock show,
Mm.
honestly. And it was a Christian band that does worship music. And it was like real lights, a real band that was like really good. And it was like something just lit up inside of me. And I was like, I don't know what's happening right now, but it's incredible. And this, I want to be a part of this.
Mm.
Like whatever this is, I want to be a part of this, whether that's at the time, I was a freshman in college. I was either like, whether that's playing music or working in it, like, I don't know what it is, but like, I just need to be a part of this. And what's crazy, what's like totally a full circle moment. And I still have the ticket stub to that show that I keep on my nightstand. One of the first bands that I worked with when I came over to Premiere, and honestly, the band that I have worked with the longest is Hillsong United
Mm.
at Premiere. And I got an opportunity to send a picture of that ticket stub to Luke Webb, who's been their tour manager for 20 years. I mean, basically from the beginning. And was just like, man, like this was the show that really inspired me to want to work in music some way, somehow, like as a career. And there's no way, like, and basically in that moment was just like, that event that you guys did, like, had such a profound impact on me. And that time, it's like, how many thousands or millions of people have you guys had a similar impact on
Mm.
for any number of reasons in the course of your ministry or the music that you've written or the songs, that have gone globally viral, like you guys have probably no awareness of the kind of impact, but this was the impact that you had on me. And it is incredibly wild that I can pick up the phone and call you and like we can have a conversation. So that would be like probably number one. And I'll say 1B, the first show that I ever went to, like without my parents growing up, was at Rocket Town, which is a club venue here in Nashville. And I went to see a band called Under Oath, who for years and probably even still, like that's just hold a very special place in my heart, but they were very heavy and aggressive. And I remember walking into the venue when the first band was on stage and it was just like flashing strobe lights and a crowd going wild. Like when I say wild, it's like people beating each other up wild type situation and like with a smile on their face, it's like, this is very different than anything I've ever seen before. And this energy is electric. And it's like, that was the first experience where I remember walking in and it was just like, live shows are incredible. Like I was 15 years old. I'm like, live concerts are amazing. I just want to go to all of them, So that was the first show that I ever went to without my parents. And I was just like, this is it, which is funny because like, I still love Under Oath and I went and saw them a few months ago when they were here in Nashville. And it's just like, they're that band that holds that special place, in my heart. And then probably another one that was around the same time frame. I saw Coldplay in Nashville at Bridgestone on the Viva La Vida tour. And they have a song on that Viva La Vida album that is still one of my favorite songs. It was never a single, was never a hit, but it's the last song on the album called Death and All His Friends. And I will never forget, they played it and they got to that big sort of climactic instrumental moment towards the end of the song. And I legitimately started crying I was overcome with like the beauty of the moment that was just like, it's one of those things, like it is forever etched into my memory of like, this is a all-time moment for me that I will never forget experiencing this at a show and how I felt being at this show, and it's like, those are like, for all very different reasons, like those are all very special shows. And I've been to a lot of shows, but those are all like in a very pivotal part of my life, time of my life. Like those were all very meaningful in their own unique ways for me. And, like even this year, like I know I mentioned I went to see Under Oath, who's on one end of the spectrum. I went and saw, this wasn't this year, but last year I saw the 1975, paid money for all these shows to go see these bands because they're amazing. And on the flip side of it, a couple weeks ago, went to see the spectacle that is Travis Scott here in Nashville, because it's like, and I actually saw him on the Astro World tour when it came through last time. And it's like, the thing that I appreciate about that, even though I'm definitely not a diehard Travis Scott fan. Like there are songs that I like, and I can get on with it. But if you have never been to a legitimate like hip hop show, like a real hip hop show, the production value and the experience of the show, it is like, when you hear the word spectacle, like it is absolutely a spectacle. And I cannot even begin to describe like the high bar that hip hop artists are setting when it comes to putting on a show. Like not just playing the music, but like this is a show that is, you just have to see it to experience it and understand what it is, whether you like the music or not. Like I don't think there's anybody or any genre doing it better than hip hop artists right now, as far as like putting a show on. So, but like all of these, man, it's like, I just love going to shows, and I hope that I never lose my zeal for going to these shows and just like reminding myself that I started as a fan of music. And honestly, that's why I do the work that I do. It's because first and foremost, like I am a fan of music and I know the impact that it's had on me. And if I have the opportunity to be a part of creating that experience for someone else or, you know, thousands of people in any given setting, it's like, I want to do that. Like that's a really unique, special thing and opportunity to be a part of. And I never want to lose sight of that.
That's awesome. I think that's a good place to wrap up, that you want to create those experiences that you've had. So where can our listeners learn more about Premiere, learn about you? Tell us where we can find more about you online.
Yeah. If you want to know what's going on with Premiere, premiereproductions.com. It's a great place to find a lot of the shows that we're doing. Or we have, you know, our company Instagram and Facebook profiles are available as well, Premiere Productions. My Instagram is private, but I don't mind sharing my username. My username's Jonathan D. Roberts, and I'm usually posting about my kids or my wife or the shows that I'm working. Like those are the three things that I kind of tend to post about. Or on Facebook, you know, Jonathan Roberts on Facebook. And so, yeah, that's me. Or LinkedIn. I'll connect with anybody on LinkedIn, even though I'm only on it like once every other month. I usually accept pretty much anybody that tries to find me there too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Tony.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Book Your Band podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I would sincerely appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and share the show with some of your friends. To stay informed on upcoming episodes, be sure to sign up for the Book Your Band mailing list and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All those links are available at www.bookyourbandpodcast.com.